It's very important for us to protect other people's minds. The foundation, the root of Dharma practice is protecting other people's minds. People make unnecessary demands of us and make us do this and that. If we can fulfill it, why not? If it makes them happy, that's Dharma. The Guru Rinpoche said to me, Dharma is very simple. If the other person is happy and you cause that, that's Dharma. It's Dharma. So let's, for example, say, if we wear our hair a certain way and it bothers people, and they tell us again and again, and there's simply nothing wrong with it, let's wear another way. If it makes them happy, that's Dharma. Let's not hold on to our pride. Let's not hold on to our ego. Let's offend other people as less as possible. Not because we are wrong, but because they are at a level of practice that is quite different. And the less we can create unhappiness in other people's minds, the less we create the karma for us to be unhappy. So we should swallow our pride and we should actually protect other people's minds. If they have a particular request, if they ask us to do a certain thing or certain things bother them, never mind. Every time you say, I'm sorry, you're getting closer to enlightenment. Every time you please another person and you protect another person, you're becoming enlightened. You will become enlightened on the basis of all sentient beings. If there's 100 sentient beings in samsara, you cannot please 99 and not please one and become enlightened. You have to become enlightened on the basis of all sentient beings. If you become enlightened on the basis of sentient beings, now you should collect the karma in order to protect their minds. If they request you to do something and you cannot, you say it nicely. But one should not haughtily and rudely say, I won't do this, I won't do that, I won't do that, I won't do this, because one has pride and one has ego. Because the name of the game here is to get rid of pride and ego. So if you're doing it out of pride and ego, it's a catch-22 situation. One should actually try to protect other people's minds as much as possible. And what do you mean by protecting their mind? Not offending them. As much as possible. That is Dharma practice in your daily lives. So if someone does something you don't like, if you need to criticize, if you need to say something, say it in a nice, honest way. Don't criticize them. Don't say they're below you. Don't say they're lower than you. Don't say that their qualities are below you. Maybe it is, but you don't have to tell them. Like I said, if someone's ugly, you don't go up and say, hey, you're ugly. You're inviting trouble. You're not protecting their minds. If they're making some mistakes, if it's your position and right to correct them, say it in a nice, polite, and kind way. And if it's not going to work at that time, don't say it at that time. Wait for the right time, but make sure it will benefit. And if the other person argues, protect their mind. Say it in a different way. Say, okay, I understand. Never mind. Okay, we do it your way. But in your heart, you wait for another time to help them. Protecting another person's mind is very, very important. It is Dharma practice in action. If we do a lot of prayers and mantras or have a lot of statues, we have big altars and we don't protect other people's minds, what is the use? Not everybody can be up to par or do the things that we like. Do the things that we like to do or do the things the way we like to do it or up to our standard. But if we criticize them, we are not protecting their mind. We may criticize them. If we're a boss, of course we have to say something, but the way of saying it should be kind without hurting the other person, without creating arguments and problems. It is very, very important when we go out and we want to say something to someone, the way we say it should protect their minds. What do we mean by protecting their minds? By helping not to offend them, not to say things that hurt them, that are damaging. It is very, very important to protect their mind. Even if someone says, oh, Dharma is very bad, and you want to argue back and say, no, Dharma is very good. Never mind. You say, oh, okay. You just leave it. You don't say, okay, that the Dharma is wrong. You're saying, okay, we'll leave it for now. And you don't have to make a statement. You say, okay, protect your mind. Protecting other people's mind is very powerful Dharma practice. If we can do that daily, we can do that all the time, we are becoming better and better and better and better. So that's very important. And we can lessen a lot of negative karma by protecting other people's minds, not saying things that offend them. Even if we do certain things that are not wrong and it offends them, let's stop doing it. Because I'm one and there are many. So let's just do it to make them happy. What's the big deal? Our purpose here is to make them happy. A Buddha has compassion. He will do everything he can to help other beings. We should also emulate that. That is a quality that we admire. That's why we put the Buddhas on our altar and study what they have to say. How can we emulate someone that's below us or the same as us? We are emulating the very qualities that we want to achieve. The only way to achieve it is not to say it's wonderful, it's fabulous, but it's put it into practice, actually. Put it into practice. So all day long, we should watch our 3 doors. We should watch what we say from our speech. We should see what we say from our mind. And we should see what our body action is. Do we walk in a way that is very offensive? Do we dress in a way that's very offensive? Do we talk in a way that's very offensive? Do we criticize people in a way that's very offensive? We must stop. We must face up to our ego and face up to ourselves and stop. and lessen it. That is Dharma practice. That is the essence. There's no other greater Dharma practice than that. It is to be compassionate. So don't pray for compassion. Don't wish for compassion. Don't make offerings of compassion. Prostrate to compassion and keep compassion deities if you don't actually train yourself in compassion. The actual practice is to train yourself in compassion. Then compassion will arise. If you don't train and you wish for it, pray for it, ask for it, supplicate for it, how will it ever come? You practice compassion by protecting other people's minds, their body, their speech, and mind. Whatever offends the majority, you stop. Whatever bothers us, it doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean you're not doing it right. It doesn't mean you are below them. It doesn't mean any of that. It means that, in fact, you are generating a broader spectrum of thinking, a greater mind, a more compassionate mind. Protect other people's minds. Protect. And realize that they are suffering. They are overwhelmed with delusions and problems, and they have a lot of karma. And they have to deal with their karma. At least you have the Dharma. They don't. So being a Dharma practitioner, we have to have a little more dignity than the next person or the next jab, isn't it? We have to have a little more dignity. We have to have a little more presence. Because we know the Dharma and we know how suffering arises. If we're a Dharma practitioner and our mouth, our mind, and our hearts don't change, and our body actions don't change, what kind of Dharma practitioner is that? Where are we going? A Dharma practitioner should not be what he wears, should not be the temple he goes to, the altar, how beautiful it is, and how many practices, or how much knowledge, or what his library is, or what gurus he knows. A Dharma practitioner's main quality that stands out should be the kindness, the change. That should be it. The person is kind, the person is improving. Even a person that's very, very weird and strange and fierce and wrathful and evil, over time, when they change, that is Dharma practice. And we all must change for the sake of ourselves. If we don't change, we will invite further suffering, obviously because of karma and its effect. So we must change on a daily basis. And we almost have no choice but to change. We have no choice but to make a transformation. We should, and we should apply immediately. Protect other people. Protect other people. Even the way we act, the way we walk, the way we appear to people. When I was younger, the way I walked, my teacher said, it looks very haughty. And I was thinking, I'm not trying to be haughty, but I didn't answer back. And Geshe used to say to me, when you walk more humbly. Don't walk so haughtily, because it offends people's minds. You are not protecting their minds. And I thought, yes, he's right. Yes, he's right. So these days when I walk, I try not to swing my arms and my big butt around as much as I used to. But it's correct. It's offending others because I didn't mean it, but that's not the point. The point is you modify yourself, body, speech, and mind as much as possible as a sign of your Dharma knowledge and training. Don't advertise what Dharma knowledge you have. Show it by your actions. Show it by your transformation. Show it by how you change. Show it by the point where from point A to point B to point C, from the first year to the second year to the third year of your Dharma practice, how you have changed. Without having to speak it, without having to show it. People will recognize it. People are not stupid. That's how you will be a great patron of Dharma. That's how you will spread the Dharma. That's how you become a great practitioner. That's how you will engage and get the blessings of the Buddhas and the Dharma and the Sangha. That's how you know you have understood the Dharma, when your behavior has been modified and changed to suit the needs of others, to suit the needs of other beings. That is the purpose of Dharma, to suit other beings, not because you're weak, but because you are actually stronger. Think about that. Think about how we act and how we react to people. That is Dharma practice. If we don't do that, prostrations, vajrasattva, all that is out the window. They're useless. That and vajrasattva, refuge, and jaramji will have a lot of effect. It will be a combination effect. Like when we put a detergent, we wipe it, and then we clean it, it will be a combination effect. And definitely, you will see things change in your life. It is very important to protect other people's minds. That should be it. Whenever I associate with others, I think myself the lowest among all and hold others supreme in depth of my heart. When others out of jealousy treat me with abuse, slander, and so on, I suffer the defeat and offer the victory to others. The 8 verses training the mind. That was taught to us by His Holiness the Dalai Lama the first time I met His Holiness when I was 11. So I used to recite that every single day of my life. And that was my attempted main practice. And that was the main practice His Holiness to do. Whenever I associate with others, I think myself the lowest among all. When others treat me out of jealousy, with abuse, slander, and so on, I suffer the defeat and offer the victory to others. When one whom I have placed great hope in hurts me, may I view him as a supreme guru. And on the 8 verses. That is Dharma practice. Without that, What's the use of the mantras? What's the use of pujas? What's the use of your malas? What's the use if your mala is amber, or if it's crystal, or if it's jade? What's the use if it's made from solid gold and if it's from solid ivory? What's the use if you know all the names of the deities? What's the use if you know you belong to a center, you have life membership? What's the use if your altar contains 500 statues and they're all antique? What's the use if you know all the mantras perfectly and well? What's the use if you have a huge Dharma library? What's the use if you can recite all the texts from memory perfectly and wonderfully to people? Do you think that's Dharma practice? Do you think that's going to change your life? Do you think that people will be impressed by that? The silly people in the beginning will be impressed, but in the end, people will run away and see you as a hypocrite. Dharma practice is not that. It is not the altars. It is not your mala. It is not the mantras. It is not the books you have. It is not the knowledge. It's not reciting the names of the deities. It is not that. Dharma practice is a transformation of the mind, modifying one's behavior on the basis of transforming one's mind and becoming a gentle and kinder person. Not once, not twice, all the time, continuously, not when you're only around the gurus, not only when you're in the monastery, not only when you're being scolded and told or watched. Always, you're always being watched by the Buddhas and your protectors, and always being watched by your karma. There's no escape from that. You can't be in your room and do something else. You can't be in your office and do something else and think no one's watching you. You can get away with it. You can't get away from karma and the omniscient wisdom eye of 3 jewels. If you do good things, whether people are watching or not, when you actually face your altar, you can face it with dignity. You can't get away from karma. Whether you're being watched or not, one's actions should accord with the Dharma. It will benefit oneself. Modify one's behavior. Modify one's stress. Modify one's appearance. Modify one's behavior. Modify one's speech. Modify one's desires. And through modification of these, one will eventually be able to lessen the delusions and root them out with the practice of Ajasata purification, with the practice of refuge, with the practice of Jiramji, and meditation, and studying the Dharma. And one may be very enthusiastic in studying the Dharma and doing the Dharma in the beginning, but after a while we find it wanes. It wanes because we don't make effort towards study. It wanes and gets less because we don't read it and we don't think about and contemplate on it. With anything in life, when we don't focus and contemplate on it, it wanes. The interest disappears. It disappears or remains strong on the basis of you contemplating, thinking about it, and reading about it, and studying about it. You have all the books and materials available. You have the intelligence and a language to read and understand it. Why not take full advantage of that? Don't let the books rot in the corner collecting dust, decaying away, turning yellow. Take the books, use it, read it, study it. How can you get out of enlightenment without knowing the methods? How can you sit there and make money and go to work and have a wonderful family, eat and sleep, and not worry about death, which is inevitable? How stupid and how silly you do not worry about death. How stupid and silly you don't worry about your next life, which is longer than this current life. How can we be attached to all the things of this life, which we're going to have to leave behind very soon? It is stupidity. And I'm sorry to use that language. Please forgive me. It is pure stupidity that we focus and attract all our energy and attention to this life. One should not be embarrassed to practice Dharma. One should not be embarrassed to pray. One should not be embarrassed to do meditation and study the Dharma. One should not be embarrassed of these things. One should be proud of it. One should be embarrassed to be attached to money, to be embarrassed to be attached to one's mate, to be embarrassed to be attached to sex and drinking and partying and discoing, because those are the ones that are going to bring you suffering. Even if your worldly friends scorn you and say those are good things and why you become a religious fanatic, you forgive them because it's their ignorance speaking. At the time of death, none of these things are going to be able to help you. None of your friends are going to be able to help you. Who cares what they say? Who cares what they think? Of course, you don't say, who cares what you think? Protect their mind. Say, oh, thank you, thank you. One should be embarrassed of negative activities, not embarrassed of Dharma practice and Dharma studies and Dharma reading and applying. One should not be embarrassed because one does not lie. And one that should not be embarrassed that one is modifying and changing and transforming. One should not be embarrassed of that. There's no reason to. One should be embarrassed that one is not modifying. One has a big mouth. One fights and argues and hurts people. One that is cruel and mean, haughty, and full of ego and pride. You should be embarrassed of that. One should be embarrassed to go to a disco. One should be embarrassed to go out for a drink. One should be embarrassed to get drunk and do drugs and smoke. You should be embarrassed of those things. Those are things that are embarrassing because they create harm for your body and your mind and your speech. Those are the embarrassing. One should be embarrassed that one's excited to go to the office and sit there and make a lot of money. You should be embarrassed of that. That is embarrassing. Because you're going deeper into samsara. Those are the real things you should be embarrassed of, not Dharma practice, not Dharma reading. There's not a time when you enter Dharma. Oh, when I'm a certain age, I will do Dharma. How do you know you've lived to a certain age? Everyone needs Dharma. Everyone wants happiness, or everyone wants to escape. There is no time when you should and should not start. The time is immediate. The time is now, immediate. The place is here and now. You're going to die. You're going to pass away. You're going to drop dead. Your body is going to rot away, and your body is going to take a new life. Realize that. See that. Don't be intellectual about it. It's going to happen to you. Are you ready? Are you prepared? And what are you doing to prepare? You think your little cheap mantras? Oh, I did 21 today. I'm such a great practitioner. Ridiculous. Do you think you can recite a few mantras and avoid yourself from going to hell in the 3 lower realms and to next life? You think? You think it's so easy? If it's so easy, Buddha Shakyamuni would have thrown out. It wouldn't have taught anything. Just recite one mantra, you become enlightened. Not so simple. Because karma is so complicated. Because life is so complicated. Delusions are so complicated. That is why Dharma is complicated. But it's a complication worth bearing. It's a complication worth learning. It's a complication worth achieving and approaching and trying to learn. It is worth it. Because the battle you're trying to fight is quite a complicated, big battle. It is a big, big battle you're trying to fight. You should be embarrassed of the negative things you do all day long. Don't be embarrassed of Dharma practice. Don't hide it. Don't be embarrassed that you do Dharma practice. There's nothing fanatical. Fanaticism is when you do Dharma practice on the basis of, just for the sake of doing it and going overboard and forcing everybody into it because you're doing it. Fanaticism is harmful. You should not be embarrassed of Dharma practice. You should be proud that you're a Buddhist. You should be proud that you have met the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. It doesn't matter how old you are, what position you're in, whether you know a lot of Dharma or not. What you know, practice it. What you know, do it. And do it without complaint. Do it without showing off. Do it without making a big spectacle and a drama and a Chinese opera out of this. Do it from the heart. In the end, it's going to be you and Buddha. That's who you're going to have to face up to. So no matter how beautiful you are, no matter how wonderful you are, no matter how rich you are, no matter how much business you have, no matter how intelligent you are, how many degrees you have, it doesn't matter when you face the truth in the end, when you face Buddha. Modify your behavior immediately. Change your behaviors that need to be changed immediately. Increase the positive. Put the volume up on the positive. And stop procrastinating in your Dharma practice. Stop procrastinating. Stop waiting. Because death is not going to be procrastinated. Stop procrastinating and stop making up excuses for your laziness. Stop it, and for your ego, and stop hiding behind different excuses to protect that ego that is destroying you. Modify your behavior immediately and pull out that ego that is just destroying your life and destroying your future happiness. Pull it out. And the only way to do it is to go head on by modifying your behavior, avoiding the 10 non-virtues, purifying by Vajrasattva, and praying to your Guru and showing respect to all sentient beings. All sentient beings. That is Dharma practice. Nothing else. Think about it.